trying to be, you have gone through the process of trying to seek happiness and liberation and whatever through the normal routes, then you realize it is not working and you need something more. So you know that you need knowledge. And when you are a seeker, you are a mumuksu. But that knowledge is either it is or it isn't. It isn't. You have fleeting moments of having that knowledge, and so either that knowledge has, you know it or you don't know it.
Okay. Anybody else? What?
Connecting to
One thing is, it's
freedom.
very important. All of us get basically what he's saying, right? But what you want to do is, additionally, what is he saying in this paragraph? Then only what happens is, you become analytical, because he's kind of expanding on something. So you need to get that, not just the general idea, but also what value added does this para bring to the knowledge, right? So that then it. So what is he saying exactly? So what Tushar is saying is right. So one thing, what he is doing is refining the whole idea further from moksha. The one who seeks moksha is what we call mumukshu. Now, a transition from being mumukshu to jignasu. This is the purpose of the matter, right? So we need to first understand what does the term mumukshu mean and what does the term jignasu mean. Mumukshu means muktu ichha. The one who desires freedom. And jignasu means natu. The one who
Seek.
desires to know. One is the one who wants to be free from all afflictions, and the other one is the one who desires to know. So who transits from the one who desires to be free to the one who desires to know in order to be free? You understand? Because
that wants to be limitless, wants to feel that there is nothing free of his limitations. One who feels that he is limited but wants to be freed of that sense of limitation.
okay, so that means there are a lot of people who want to be free from limitation, and some people think that freedom is gained by doing something. So we keep doing something, whether it is Artha, Dharma, Kama, or all the other spiritual pursuits. At one point, you will recognize that doing something is not going to get me there. So what is the logic that he gives? That any action that you do is going to be limited, right? Action cannot produce limitless result. It's impossible. So that means the action in itself, so you are small, this is your problem, and you perform an action. And that is also, by definition, small. What does it mean? It's limited in time, it's limited in space, it's limited in effort. So therefore it is small. So this small plus small, can it ever get to freedom from smallness, which is limitless? Can it ever? Can you ever solve this problem?
Momentarily, I mean, I feel
Yeah,
that I have
exactly.
that and there,
So that means-
and I've got everything.
So whether you are seeking Artha, Dharma or Kama, or you are seeking some experience, or you are seeking some cleansing or whatever, some healing, it is still limited. You understand? So the only, if you want freedom from limitation, this is your real search. It can never be accomplished this way. Only when you
It cannot
understand
be
that
accomplished by any action.
action. So this is very, very important. that action cannot give me this. So therefore, the only way to get to this freedom from limitation logically is that I am not small in the first place. So if I am not small in the first place, then your question is, why do I think I am small? So that means that my thinking is because of error and ignorance. So the real problem is now what? Knowing rather than
Knowledge.
Do you understand? By doing, what you are doing is you are keeping this paradigm that I am small and you are trying to add something. But what the logic is showing in this para is that if you are small and you add something which by definition is limited, the outcome is going to be limited. So through this process, this small is through action. So the only way is you are not, if this is a possibility, then the only way this can be solved is you are not small in the first place. Because by doing something which by definition is finite, you cannot reach freedom from limitation. Right? So this is why this, the only thing is not, the answer is not an action, but the answer is, if this is wrong, then I need to know my true nature. The answer is knowledge. When you know that, then you become a jignasu. You move from mumukshu to being a jignasu. Because you understand that there is no, logically there is no other way. So now, let me show you one more thing. In Sanskrit, they show this.
So Nima,
Yes.
is this therefore, I was reading the chapter, isn't this like the real heart of Vedanta?
Absolutely.
Because this
Absolutely.
is talking about
This is
Jnana
superb.
compared to
Superb.
the other Kanda.
This is the crux of Vedanta, which distinguishes it not only from Karma Kanda, but it also distinguishes it from all other pursuits, whether you call worldly pursuits or other spiritual pursuits. This absolutely, Baman, this is the crux. So therefore, you have to understand why is it so important, because logically, otherwise, no matter what you do, it's not possible. So you have to understand the bigness of what I'm saying here, absolutely. I'm so glad you caught it, that this is the crux.
And the way it has been misinterpreted is that don't do action.
Excellent. So now, super. So now, if this is the case, very good, Tushar. So what Tushar is saying, and it's true that only knowledge can get you the final freedom. So now it is misinterpreted and it's saying knowledge, action is useless. What we say is action is not useless. Action has a role to play, but not here. It has
Depends on where the action is coming from.
No, it has a role to play with reference to making your mind sharp so that this knowledge can take place. So the very action which cannot give you freedom, that very action can be used to free your mind from all kinds of afflictions. And this particular thing is called Karma Yoga. You first take out the capacity of action to produce moksha, but you re-bring the role of action not for moksha but for readiness of the mind. Excellent. Then you have the whole picture of what is what absolutely clear. Neither we say that the action is totally useless, nor we say action will get you to the final freedom. So you need to know that the final freedom comes from knowledge, but action does have a role to play, because as I act in this world, I begin to recognize when my mind is all over the place, and I have to bring it under some kind of a, I have to make my mind more and more mature in order to get to this knowledge. So action itself cannot produce moksha, but action can help you prepare the mind for moksha. So in Bhagavad Gita home study, this whole Karma Yoga is meant to prepare the mind for this knowledge. What did Arjuna want to do? Arjuna said, if knowledge is actually really going to give me the final freedom, why don't I just concentrate on this? Why do I need to do this? his questions kept coming like that. And Lord Krishna said, it's true that knowledge will bring you the final freedom, but for this knowledge you need a
You
mature
have to
mind.
take the correct action.
So that means, so you need a mature mind. And see, if your mind is already fraught with sorrows, it is already fraught with a low self-image, it is all kinds of emotional either blockage or overreactions, or your sense of dharma and duties and responsibilities is not very clear. With that mind, if you get to this knowledge, it is impossible. Why?
Your choice of action will be wrong.
But that itself has not. So your choice of action. Okay, so let's go with what Tushar is saying. Your choice of action will not be appropriate, and if your choice of action is not appropriate, how will the Ishvara's order compensate you for that confusion, conflict? You understand? Now, a mind which is fraught with confusion and conflict cannot get to this knowledge. So this is why knowledge is extremely critical, but not, no, action is extremely critical, but not for freedom, but for preparing the mind for knowledge. So this in Bhagavad Gita home study, he also uses the word Antakarana Shuddhi. Antakarana means, the karana literally means instrument, and anta means the inner instrument, so that refers to mind, and shuddhi means the purity,
Cleansing.
So knowledge for antakarana shuddhi, and action for antakarana shuddhi, and knowledge will for freedom. This has to be totally clear. Otherwise, what happens is, the whole orientation is, I have to do something. But what he says is, any action that you do is going to be finite. It cannot lead to the outcome, which is freedom from limitation. Right?
Just a
So,
question.
yes.
That, the 4 parts.
Yeah.
So then how does...
Okay, excellent. So, traditional Vedanta does not accept 4 parts. Excellent question, Bhagavan. This is later. Adi Shankaracharya never talks of 4 parts. So let me, now that you are asking this question, let me little bit elaborate on that. Okay. So what is, can you talk about 4 parts? Can you tell me what do you understand by 4 parts? And I'll show you. You have to find out what is a logical problem with that. Then I will show you what is Vedanta's position. Now you have listened to Vedanta for quite a long time. You have to be able to figure all this out, right? Then it's called knowledge. Okay, what is 4-part government?
I'll allow you to...
No, you said that. I didn't say that.
Well, the reason I ask is because
No,
I
but it's
always
true.
see-
No, what you are saying is absolutely true. This is very, very prevalent. This belongs to Swami Vivekananda's school, what you are saying, 4 parts. Okay? And even though he was a great guy, we don't have any problem with him, but this is not traditional Vedanta. So we deviate from that. Okay? Adi Shankaracharya
So that
doesn't
is
talk
Vedic
about
but
4
not
parts.
Vedanta.
Super. It's not. That is his interpretation of Vedanta, which is not conforming with Adi Shankaracharya's commentaries, which is what we call the authority of Vedanta, the traditional Vedanta, which is logically non-contradictory.
But I thought it doesn't fall under true Vedanta at all.
So exactly, yeah. So this is what we say. Correct. I mean, that's what we say, but that's a terminology. Let's not say who's right, who's not right. Let's see the logical flaws, right? Our purpose is not to say he's wrong or anything. Our purpose is to understand how logically something is not possible. So this is, we don't have any personal issues with anybody. So what is this 4 parts? Excellent. Who knows? Yeah, excellent. One is, so what they say is, moksha, the freedom, can be gained by one of the 4 parts. One is, as Nirmala is saying, common. And this?
Yeah.
None. So what this school says is that we, according to this school, we belong to where? Jnana Yoga. Right? According to this school, we are trying to get to moksha through knowledge.
With the second
Right? Now, Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is this asanas that new people do. Okay? Now, so for them, what we are doing is wonderful, right? But what we get as a result of this Jnana Yoga is moksha, and all these other three will also get there, get here. Do you understand? This is their contention. So now, how is it, how logically you can show me that this is not possible?
These three will only help in preparing your mind for this.
Super. This is what we are saying. So that means this in itself cannot give you moksha, right? Because suppose you say bhakti. So what is their contention? You can say if you are very devoted, you can get moksha. Or if you keep doing actions with proper attitude, you will get moksha. Or even if you do this Hatha Yoga, which is, you want to take care of your body, take care of your mind, you will get to moksha. So how? First we show how it is not possible. So first you have to show that. Why just doing a so-called having bhakti will not get you to moksha? Why? Yeah, bhakti alone will not. Why? First you need to show it, and then we have to come to what Tushar is saying.
It has to sharpen. It has to also give you that mind to say, to be able to be realize, to lift your ignorance about your own self. Just mindlessly doing bhakti is not going to solve the problem.
Okay.
Through bhakti you have to get the jnana.
Okay. That's
Your
true.
ignorance
But
has
what you first need to see, need to go step by step so that logically we can arrive at it, right? So that means why, my question is, why bhakti in itself cannot lead to moksha? So you have to give me a logical answer. Why not? Just logical answer.
If your mind is not cleansed, and if you just keep doing bhakti, so you keep bhajan, doing pujas, rituals.
So what is bhakti? We have to first.
Excellent.
Okay,
See, the thing,
I think
absolutely. See, please begin to think more fundamentally, because
Sure.
we try to give answers at a very superficial level which actually doesn't say anything. So absolutely. See, you need to train your mind to go what? Step by step analytically in order to arrive at a given conclusion. This is the training I want you all to have. Because you have listened to Vedanta enough now, so you know kind of, but I want your mind to become precise and accurate and logical so that it can, any given thing I ask, you can do that. So now, how do you do that? You first start with, what is bhakti? Ask first yourself, don't start answering the question without first defining what bhakti is.
I think it is because of superior-inferior relation.
Superb. Excellent. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for, right? Bhakti, by definition, is devotion.
To an external
Excellent. Excellent. So that means devotion by definition means that what? I am small. Excellent. It starts with, and there is somebody who is
bigger.
superior, larger, bigger. It starts here. Now, suppose you keep on doing, what will you do to relate to this? Tell me. Now this is your starting point. Now you want to relate bhaktis relating to this superior. So what will you do as a small person to relate to this superior thing?
Be more and more subservient.
Do you understand that? I want you to figure out this logic.
Then
Ima,
there's
it
the
could
question,
also
Ima.
be, that's what I'm.
So first thing is you have to do first. You have to do something to relate to this higher thing. So that means it requires doing something. What doing? Either you have to do bhajan or you have to do what? Some puja, or you have to do some chanting, or you have to do something, right? But the relationship doesn't come without doing something. And in this doing, as Tushar says, what the bigger the devotee you are, more and more subservient you become. Do you understand? So it starts with a totally different framework. Do you understand? So you become, the bigger the devotee you are, so then there are some things that I want to be your servant forever. This is how so many people, I don't want anything in life. These are all expressions of bhaktas. Okay? So that means that the more subservient you are, the better it is. You're a bigger bhakta.
So actually you're in focus, you're very smart.
Now, so by doing this more and more and more and more, will you get to moksha? What is moksha?
The realization that I am free
That
of,
I am
that
free.
there
I
is
am
no
limitless.
separate, I am the one. I
So
am
that
free,
means
I am
the
limitless.
truth of Ishvara is truth of
They are all limitless.
I. Both of this is. So
And you are separate.
this way starts with separate, and that separation, no matter what you do, that separation is reconfirmed, and within that you keep becoming more subservient.
That means that Mirabai could not have become what?
So now, we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
Mirabai was a jnani. So I will tell you why. Because what she
Also
understood,
Narsi Mehta.
right? Narsi Mehta
Because
was
he reached
a
the-
jnani. They were jnanis actually.
How-
But
how
Mirabai, I'll tell you why. Okay? But first you
So,
see,
Ima, the question over here is that the concept I thought in our thing between the Guru Shishya, because the Bhakti is either a Guru or a God, is that you begin by thinking I am small, I am different from the Guru or God, I am not important, etc. But the job of the Guru is to teach you that I am God, that I am
so that means
one with
this
the
is,
Guru.
Baman, this is exactly what I'm saying. Without somebody teaching you, how will you automatically come out from this framework? This is exactly the point. Right? You may start like this, but what we are arguing is not that this is useless. What we are saying is this by itself cannot get you moksha. Somebody has to come and teach you and show you that actually both of them resolve in one same reality. So therefore, what we are not saying, please understand, we are not saying this is useless, not at all. This four path is not that everything is useless, no. This itself can get you here or not without this.
This will help you.
Excellent. Do you understand? So I'm not arguing with what you are saying that yeah, you start out like this, but ultimately you do need somebody to tell you that, and you need to understand that to get here. This is what we are saying. But what this four path thing is, this itself will get you there. Do you understand? So why will it not get you there? Not because we don't like it, because logically you start with a division. And every action that you perform as a bhakta, you reinforce this division. So automatically you can't get to freeing yourself from that division. Do you understand? Logically it's not possible unless somebody shows you that.
But there what Bhakti Yoga, my understanding is that because of that total devotion, the thinking is that the ego comes down and therefore you become one
See,
with
this is all their thing. Suppose your ego, exactly as Tushar is saying, your ego comes down means you are less, more and more subservient, right?
subservient to what?
Subservient, that's to this bigger, so this is whole in bhakti. my ego comes down and Ishvara, my devotion to Ishvara increases. Exactly. So that means that division is actually not going. You understand? And this is why this may, I'm not saying it's not useful. I'm saying this itself cannot get here.
The only reason I ask is because from what I've read, from what I've experienced with Bhakti Yoga, is that people who have through great bhakti, through great prayer, have actually then achieved a much higher self because that energy, whether it is Satchitana or the grace of the Guru, then has flown in and they have achieved very, very high spiritual levels.
See, Raman, what I'm saying is that, the thing is energy and all, we are not talking. See, this knowledge is not about just imagining some energy
What is high spiritual
and
value?
high spiritual thing and higher self. Please don't, because this self cannot have gradations. Either it is limited or it is limitless. Do you understand? And within limitlessness, there are no gradations. So you need to make our mind begins to imagine things. So we have to make it as factual as possible. So what I will show you why this knowledge is very, very important for us also, but not as a direct means here. So I will talk about it. I think when I talk about it, it will become clear. So what now we are arguing is this itself, it starts with a division. And no matter what you do, that division of you being small and something else being big automatically cannot disappear. Somebody has to teach you. If you have a devoted mind, when somebody teaches you, it may be much easier for you. That I agree. But by itself, automatically is not going to disappear. Yeah.
I think Bhakti Yoga prepares you to understand Ishwar much better. But that you and your connection with Ishwar, it does not make that connection.
Exactly.
It puts Ishwar in the right perspective, but your relation with Ishwar, it does not solve that problem.
I will, yes, very good. But I will further refine it. Okay, excellent. But very good. Now, do you get this first? Let's move and then I will come back and we will see for Vedanta how we retake all of this but in its right perspective. So first what we are trying to do is this alone, or this alone can get you here. Then we say this will get you here, but that doesn't mean all of this is useless. It will retake all of this and give it its right place. That is the whole way the mind has to move, right? Logically you have to move, not through your own imagination. Okay? So, Hatha Yoga. What is Hatha Yoga?
Body.
Asanas, right? Like suppose body asanas, breathing exercises. Suppose you include meditation, quietening the mind. Right? So suppose you improve your body, suppose you improve your breathing and your physiological function, suppose you do meditation and you quieten your mind, by itself can it take you to moksha? Because what is your identity? What is your self-identity? I am small. By doing all of this, can you free yourself from this identity? It is impossible. This is that whole thing. A small plus can never, it only remains, it may become better, but it only remains small. This is the logic. That doesn't mean this is useless, but you can't, through these activities, you can't become free from smallness. You understand? Why you can't become free from smallness? Because either you are small or you are limitless. And if you are already limitless, you don't need to do anything to become limitless. You only have to know that. Yeah. Do you understand? No action which is finite can add up to freedom from limitation. This is just, this is why. When scientists come to this class, they find it easy. Why? Because they have extremely logical minds. So they haven't imagined things. So that's why they can follow these logics very easily. So therefore...
Does Hatha Yoga also maybe, give you a false sense of ego also? I can keep my breath for 5 minutes, and then from tomorrow I'll make it 6 minutes, and then it'll be 7 minutes. And my body is like this, and look at this other Swami, his body is whatever.
Like how the Swamis walk on water.
So, see, what you are saying is absolutely, even Bhakti can do that, right? You kind of dismiss others that, oh, they don't have any devotion, they are all lost in the world. So, anything can do anything to you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So here also you are right that the people who have better bodies and people who have, that whole life becomes, absolutely. So Swamiji used to make fun. So they say that, he used to say that a human life is not calculated by years. It is calculated by number of breaths. So now, the yogis, what do? So we breathe, suppose 10 times in, I don't know, 3 minutes or whatever. They will breathe only 3 times. So what will happen? Life will be longer. So the whole life becomes like, absolutely. But that, is it really solving? Does it take you away from freedom from limitation? And then you start feeling, oh, see, I'm achieving so much. So that's a problem also. So that means all these activities are finite. And you are small. Small, you add anything finite, it is impossible to take you to freedom from smallness. Okay? Karma Yoga. What will you do as Karma Yoga? What is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga by definition is action. So, small, whether you perform good action or you don't perform good action. So, action also you have a free choice, right? Either you can perform responsible action. So, suppose you say from irresponsible action I'm moving towards responsible actions through Karma Yoga. So, that is good. It's not good. But through actions, which is limited, your starting point is I'm small. In all of this, your starting point is I'm small. So that smallness, by doing whatever, either you are devoted or you are performing Hatha Yoga or performing responsible actions, it will not make you change this starting point. Is it clear? It is impossible. You have to see its impossibility logically. So therefore, what Jnana Yoga is, the starting point is attacked by saying, you are not small, you are so good. So now your whole pursuit becomes knowing this reality. But, so as you know that knowing this reality will get you moksha, now you bring all of this in your pursuit of knowledge. But give it its right place. What is the right place of bhakti? Bhakti is critical in knowing this reality. Absolutely critical. Why is it critical? Because you need to what? Prepare your mind for this knowledge. And for preparation of mind, bringing in Ishvara is critical. It's not only about emotional, psychologically emotional. Why? Because whether you are psychologically healthy or not, you will not be able to answer some questions. What are the questions? What is the nature of the world in which I am living? Is it random? Is it unfair? Or it is intelligently put together? Nobody will be able to answer this question. And this, whatever you may never have raised this question to yourself, but all of us have some implicit understanding of the nature of the world in which you live, and what you think about the world will have a huge repercussion on the actions you choose and how you live in this world. So that means Ishvara, when you bring Ishvara, only then your mind begins to understand that I am not living in a meaningless random universe. I am living in a highly intelligent universe. Your relationship with the universe will change once and for all. It will change once and for all because immediately what? That intelligent order pervades everyone and everything. Immediately you will find your connection with the rest of the universe. Immediately you will say that if the world is organized intelligently, any irresponsible action that I perform from my own confusion will give me result. I cannot get away from it. Whether legally I escape it or not, I can be very smart and find legal ways to escape it, but in the laws of the universe, I can never escape. That's very big. When you go to a psychologist, they don't have access to this information. They don't talk about ethics. They don't talk about duties and responsibilities. They only talk about, how some emotions are distorted, and they'll try to correct your stories so that your emotions are flowing a little bit better.
Because what you said about each one of us having a world view is very powerful. And the Germans have a very important word for that, which is Weltanschauung. So if you do not know what is your own worldview, you cannot then determine where you're coming from.
Absolutely. And your worldview is healthiest when you bring Ishvara in your life. Healthiest.
There are so many things which you don't understand.
Absolutely.
Which you then say that, okay, this is the maximum I can understand, but there is something
Super.
which must be right.
Super.
I don't understand, it doesn't mean that it is wrong.
Super. This shift is a critical
Only
shift.
when you know.
Generally we think, when I don't understand, it's not good. We have to change that. And we have to say, I don't understand with my buddhi. But because my buddhi by definition is limited. But the universe is so intelligent, and my buddhi cannot capture all the cause and effect running through periods of time. But because I don't understand this, I cannot label it as unfair. It has some bigger sense which I don't understand. Now suppose I feel like changing it, by all means I can go and change it, but I'm not under this illusion of control. That I want to control everything, I decide whether everything is fair or not. That person is a deluded person. As you bring Ishvara in your life, this controlling human being, judgmental human being will begin to reduce. This is a very, very big thing.
Therefore, Tushar is saying we should not judge the other three people also. Follow the other path
So
of yoga.
it's not about judging. See,
It's just knowing that
it's
it's
just knowing what. See, suppose you say 2 plus 2 is equal to 6, and I said no, 2 plus 2 is equal to not 6. It's 4. Am I judging you?
There we don't know it for a fact.
No.
Then you can.
See, what we are saying is the smallness, unless you are taught, even in your words, you said, if the guru teaches, so what you are saying is, it cannot just disappear like that. Smallness cannot disappear. Nothing just disappears. So you can be an extremely evolved human being, but you can't just say, oh, I'm going to sit under a tree and the truth of black hole will dawn on me. No, somebody has, by sitting under a tree, you become a quiet, discerning person. When somebody teaches you black hole, you may be able to understand better than somebody else. That's wonderful. We are not denying that. But on its own, knowledge cannot come. Right? So that's all we are saying. If you start with smallness, on its own it cannot disappear. There has to be an intervention, the intervention of knowledge. And your ability to understand this is better if you are this, agree. We totally agree. So that's why we are not discounting Bhakti, not at all. Bhakti holds a very, very important place in Vedanta. Unlike what some people make Vedanta out to be, as though some dry knowledge. It's not. It has a role to play. But even Ishvara has to be properly understood. Because ultimately you need to understand I and Ishvara are one. So you can't continue with this framework. I am small and Ishvara is big. Ultimately somebody has to show
Yeah,
it.
so to that extent, bhakti is all about understanding that I am one with God.
So that means understanding means knowledge.
They're all entwined actually. Yeah.
Sorry?
They're all entwined in a way.
Yeah, one.
So-
I mean, without, all these have to come together.
So that means bhakti will change your the bhakti according to Vedanta, because see, sometimes we think that religious person will have an edge when they listen to Vedanta. Sometimes religious people cannot handle Vedanta. Why can't they handle Vedanta? Because they are so
You
stuck
are
in
saying something completely
this.
different against what they have decided is value.
Do you
No, and it's
understand?
up and down
Because
difference.
in their
Shift.
mind, they are so set in this relationship that I'm small and Ishvara is big. When Vedanta says ultimately you have to move to non-difference, they cannot handle it. Sometimes completely non-religious person who has rejected silly, childish idea of God can understand Vedanta much better and can actually understand God of Vedanta, and he says only that God makes sense.
Neha, this idea that you just said, so I was sitting with some teenagers and trying to explain a little bit about Vedanta. They said, what if it's just laws?
Yeah.
And why should there be an Ishvara?
Yeah.
Why can't it be a whole series of laws which you've talked about?
Yes.
Where does Ishvara come in? I couldn't answer.
Okay. So why is it very important is because these laws, first of all, no effect can be without any cause. You must have a cause. So suppose I can ask you, where did these laws come from? That's one thing. So there has to be some intelligence from which all these different laws come. And suppose they are just laws who are just dumb and mechanical laws, right? But what we find is all these laws are interacting with each other in order to make something which is intelligent, and that given thing has an ability to interact with each other. So what I mean by that is the body doesn't just is subject to laws of gravity, laws of genetics, laws of physiology, laws of psychology. But all these laws are intertwined and interconnected. If anything is just inert, it has no ability to interact with everything else to make a given entity which is intelligent. This is not possible. If something is inert, this table has no capacity, if it is totally inert, it has no capacity to join with something else, intertwine and to make something else. Do you understand? The laws are not just operating independently, they are coming together very intricately to create one given form. This coming together, if the laws are just physical and inert, they can't come together. It requires some intelligence to put it together.
Why is that intelligence Ishvara and not?
So you just give it a name.
Oh, you just
give it a name, right? Because Isha, we give it a name. It's not a random name. It has a given name. That means it has a given understanding. Isha means that which pervades everything and that which puts everything together. And then if you just take as laws, you will not be able to, because laws are within the universe. You will not be able to answer the question that before the universe came into being, universe is an effect. What was that? There must be a cause. And what was the nature of cause? Because laws are within universe. Gravity and all is within universe. So that means here if you say it is knowledge and power, then you can say this knowledge and power which is manifest in form of laws was before knowledge and power are manifest. Then the entire thing becomes clear. With this partial thing, you can't answer so many questions. That's why it's incomplete. Logically, if you want to understand the whole world, this is incomplete. So this is why any deviation from the reality you make for your convenience, what will happen is logically you have to remain here. You can't answer the whole question.
So there's no randomness at all.
So there is no randomness. Randomness is when we, as Tushar says, when we don't understand the cause and effect, it seems random to us.
Randomness is our perception.
Randomness because we can't totally capture all the cause and effect relationships, so it seems random to us.
I'm so glad. So there's no randomness in the behavior.
No, and there's no randomness in the fact that you two have come together. So, do you understand why bhakti either can be a block to knowing, because if you are so set in this relationship that there is a bigger entity and I'm smaller, either it can help you or it can be a deterrent.
So, at the end of it, what we are saying is that each one individually cannot lead you to some.
Can you repeat that please?
They all have a place
to go to.
Super. So that means while you are pursuing knowledge, actually you need all three. So there are no four different people doing four individual things and then getting there. What we are saying is actually one person needs to have all of this to be able to get there.
It brings alignment.
It brings alignment. Absolutely. Alignment at so many different levels. So what we are, absolutely, this is what we are saying. Bhakti by itself cannot, but bhakti, if somebody is teaching you and if you have bhakti, it will help.
Yeah, but like Narsimha Mehta, through his bhakti, got the awareness with
He must have been doing yoga.
So what I'm saying is,
he got that jnana, that jagi ne jodu ka jagat se.
No, that's true. So that means, so what makes Narsi Mehta different from every other bhakta is his knowledge that Jagi ne jodo jagat se. That means his bhakti has now culminated into his knowledge.
Superior and inferior.
Exactly.
He became this.
So that means which cannot be automatically done. So that means there has to be some intervention. Either in this,
is definitely
because that jnana will take you away from your smallness to that I am the whole.
I was just thinking that one of the reasons I've always not been attracted to all these Sadhguru, this, that and all, is because they perpetuate this idea of like you are small and you have to cult, they make a cult and it's just terrifying.
It's terrifying because this is why. Who is your guru? That also is very important. If the guru always remains this person and you always remain small, and that is not a real guru. Our tradition is Guru Shishya Parampara. What is Guru Shishya Parampara? The student himself or herself has to become a guru at some point. So that means it's empowering.
So that is the great. I think just the percentages change. For some people, they might use more of bhakti, and that might help them. So for some people, action might help them, but they have to have a combination of all three. So only the percentages change for different people, but they can all get to.
Okay, so let's see. Hatha yoga, when you take care of your body,
I think that is the least.
you take care of your
That's my
breathing.
view, anyway.
When you do meditation, it will help, right? Because imagine your body is all aching when you are sitting in the class. What will happen? Your attention will be always on the pain. Suppose your mind is all distracted. Then what will happen? You can have a best teacher in front of you, but your mind is all over the place. It's not able to concentrate. Then, so all this will help, but in itself cannot get you here. Suppose you do live a life of karma yoga. By doing so, you work on your ethics, you work on your duties and responsibilities, you work on your emotional life, you work on your self-image. All of this will make your mind ready for this knowledge. So that means what we are saying is there are no 4 different kinds of people, each one independently doing only one thing and they all get there. We are saying this will get there, but in order for this to work, you need all of this.
Also, you usually find a person who's doing yoga is usually mindful of prayer, is a good person in karma and all that. There's usually a connection between all 4.
So sometimes yes and sometimes
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
So I think what Vedanta does is brings it all together and puts it in its right place.
Is it something like your body requires fat, protein, and this thing?
Exactly. So now,
Carbohydrates. Same thing for your.
so
your
what Tushar is saying is true. When we come to Vedanta, we have one of them is strong for us. Suppose somebody is highly devotional, so they have already some orientation here. Somebody is doing yoga, so they are good at Hatha yoga. Somebody who is living an ethical life, or maybe has invested in some emotional maturity. So they have some aspects that you are supposed to get from Karma Yoga. Now what happens is, wherever you are strong, you try to only make it further stronger. But what Vedanta says is, you need all.
These will
So
help.
not only, suppose you already are ethical, right? And suppose you have been totally irreligious. You do need to, you need to work on this, your relationship with Ishvara. Because Ishvara is not imagination, it is there. And if it is there, and it is all pervading, and you don't recognize it, then that mind is a highly, a mind which is not alive to realities. So how can you get to the final reality without being alive to some basic realities? So what happens? Suppose you are highly devotional and you have not been acting this thing. You need to improve your participation in the world. You need to be, the religious person may or may not be ethical, who knows, right? May or may not be emotionally mature, may or may not, so that means that person strengthening this by understanding the relationship, it still has to work on this.
But there has to be a
From
starting
yoga.
point, right?
So you come from yoga and you're all extremely disciplined and you're all rigid. You need to relax a little bit.
If you're an action person and you're doing all the good action and whatever, but you do not believe in these buckets are all loose conjues, then your ego will not allow you to understand Ishvara.
Yeah. So do you understand? So this, the knowledge, why is knowledge? Because what is the logic is giving? A small, no matter what you do, cannot become freedom from small. So, and for that you need knowledge. Somebody has to point it out to you. That this, you are not small. You are this, limitless. But in order for you to understand, you have to be evolved. And how do you become evolved? By what? Incorporating all of this in your life.
So can we say that the Darsi Mehta and the Mirabai, they were evolved. They had already
Highly
they had got the knowledge.
Yes.
But they were sharing that knowledge. They thought it was important to share, and their way of explaining it was through bhakti.
Superb. This is accurate. What Tushar is saying is accurate. See, why you can't compare Mirabai and Darsi Mehta too? Because what they write, their book, what her is, Bhavasagar sab sukh gaya hai, jarura nahi mujhe darda nahi. So first I thought that I have to cross the Bhavasagar. Now Ishvara, I only see you. There is no second entity. I don't even need to cross anything. Knowledge. It's not possible. Anybody who doesn't have knowledge cannot write that. Narsi Mehta, Jagine Joto, Jagat Dise nahi. I wake up from my ignorance and I see there is no Jagat, there is only you, Ishvara. There is no separation. So that means they have this knowledge. They are jnanis, right? But the way they express that is through this mode. They express it through. Now, Adi Shankaracharya, the greatest scholar of Advaita Vedanta, you would expect that he will only be intellectual. Not at all. He was the greatest devotee. Where is his samadhi is where, you know, at Kedar. He passed away at Kedar. So even today, his samadhi is there. So Nirviva had invited. So yeah, and he went a couple of times back and forth. And Nirviva had invited me to her place to give a talk to some group of people. And one woman, she came up to me and she says, "This is Prasad from Mukambika." And I was so amazed because Mukambika is in Karnataka, that temple, and this is where Adi Shankaracharya did his, upasana for Devi for number of years.
This is the full story about how he started. That Mishra is Sharda, which is more powerful, the Shakti or the Shiva? And then he set him thinking.
So that means he was extremely devoted. Please don't think that knowledge is devoid of devotion, but it is devoid of wrong understanding of Ishvara. You need to be devoted. You need to bring Ishvara in your life, but not your image of Ishvara, the reality of Ishvara. What is reality of Ishvara? That intelligence pervades everything. And you are integral part, and you can't extract yourself from this intelligence. And ultimately, both are one. So that means you need this. You need some physical well-being and mind which is concentrated and focused, and you need to make your actions noble. All three are necessary for knowledge to take place, and knowledge will take you from smallness to limitlessness. So instead of 4 parts, we have.
Can you tell me somebody who has got it, who has achieved moksha?
Yes.
When we think of moksha, we think of the guy when he is dying.
Oh.
Okay, when I will achieve moksha when I am.
No.
Okay. Now, supposing you have got the knowledge.
Yes.
How is that person's life supposed to be?
Okay. So I think I said no. Last time did I say here about Krishna? Did I say that?
How would he be living his life?
Yeah. Okay. So let me say that, and I'll end the class with that. So suppose who has the knowledge. Now, as I told you many times before, what you need to understand is what does it mean to have knowledge. So that you have to be clear. So we all live as individuals, right? Whether you come to Vedanta or not, we all live as individuals. What does Vedanta add to our life? What Vedanta adds to our life is understanding of Ishvara, which is the all intelligence and all power within which not only you the individual but all the other individuals and their existence and the laws within which your interactions are governed by that. Okay? So that is also Vedanta. It makes you see this presence which otherwise you may not have seen. Even if you saw it, you may have not seen it as all-pervading presence, as something which is away and higher than you. So it corrects that and it makes you see that. And Vedanta also shows one final reality which is the truth of both Ishvara and individual, which is called Brahman. Now, what generally we think is that this is what we call wise individual will only be alive to this final reality, Satyam Jnanam Anandam. But the wise person is not only this, the wise person is defined as the one who is alive to all three. You understand? So understands that there is one form which is different from another form. That itself is governed by laws of Ishvara. And Ishvara and these individuals have the final reality in Brahman. So at any given point in time, the wise person doesn't lose sight of the whole picture. It's not somebody who's only living from here. You understand? We think that the wise person is only living from here. That's not true. Okay? Now, so what it means is this individual has now captured the whole vision rather than only being restricted to this vision. Now, Tushar's question is, how does this person who has the whole perspective behave in the world as opposed to any one person who is only
Living from
restricted
that
here,
smallness.
living from that smallness? So, the answer to that is, can you answer that question with one answer that will this person do only one thing? No. What will happen? Just like every other person, different situations will arise even for this person who has the whole perspective.
True.
Now, so all kinds of situations. Instead of viewing this situation from that narrow perspective, now the person will view it from the entirety. What does it mean? And how will that be different? I will give you an example. The example is of Lord Krishna. Okay? So, now, I think I gave that example last time. I'm not sure if I did.
Touched on it, but not in detail. You just mentioned it.
Okay. So, let's say that when Pandavas, I gave that example.
You said something, but not maybe in English.
When Pandavas, after the 13th year of exile, then Duryodhana was not actually agreeing to give them anything back. At that time, it seemed as though war was imminent. Nobody could avoid the war. But Lord Krishna saw the fact that it would lead to mass destruction. So instead of writing off Duryodhana, because he has been watching Duryodhana, how he has been behaving for many years, right? Duryodhana has been unfair repeatedly, and the degrees to which he has been unfair is also increasing over a period of time. Instead of dismissing him and saying he is useless, he will never reform, instead of labeling him, what does Lord Krishna do? Let me go and negotiate. Do you understand? That means after seeing Duryodhana as being like this for so long, he still doesn't totally write him off. Why? Because any person can change anytime. That is what we call freshness. Freshness means a situation arises. You don't assess the situation from past baggage and write off people. Now, Lord Krishna goes there and then he starts negotiating. And how far does he go? He says, only give them one hope in order to avoid this mass destruction. And how does Duryodhana respond?
Sorry,
Duryodhana, one house with 5 rooms. How does Duryodhana respond? Not only he does not give in, and he says, only even if they want an inch, let them fight and take. But not only that, he starts insulting Lord Krishna. He says, who are you? You have just been taking their side. And who are you? Why are you bothered? So he was actually abusive towards Lord Krishna. How does Lord Krishna respond to Duryodhana? He just lets him abuse him? No, he stops him. He says, hey, who are you? You can't talk to me like this. And in fact, he shows his Vishwarupa. This is Mahabharata. He shows, he says, and still Duryodhana dismisses him by saying, you are just a Mayavi. You are trying to scare me. And you are just this cowherd, and you are acting smart, and he really abuses him. Lord Krishna walks out after having stopped him and said, hey, you now watch. And then he goes. But after going, does he ruminate? Does he say, oh my God, see, I went with such good intention, and how bad Duryodhana is, he didn't understand me at all, and how badly he treated me. Does he ruminate about that? Zero rumination. after having done what he has to do and being strong, he, this is what our teacher used
You
to
still
say.
gave him a choice of
So one
his army.
minute,
Why
one
did you
minute,
give him that?
1 minute, 1 minute. So that means after that thing is done, then what? That's it. Oh, that's it.
Move on.
Move on. So you did it, you stopped him, that's okay. Now,
So what is the
what
feeling?
happens is, sorry,
Hope that's all.
oh, that means
Chapter
that
over.
after
Move
you
on.
have dealt with that situation,
Amen.
you don't go back with it. You don't keep ruminating over it and replaying it in your mind again and again and again and again with this, oh, I went with such good intention, he didn't understand me, how could he abuse me like this, let me see which word did he use to say bad things to me. No such thing. Dealt with the situation and he's free. So this is answer to his questions. Now, so that means there is no carry forwards. Now a new situation arises. What? That the war is declared and the very Duryodhana who insulted him came and asked him for help. Now he doesn't again, oh, you were so rude to me, so now I am not going to give you. That means the mind is free for every situation and is able to assess the situation without all the past loads. This is freedom. Now he agrees to help him, but he is so clever that he helps him and still what? He creates an option in a way that what Duryodhana is with his state of mind, he is attracted to that option and that option is not going to help him to win the war. You understand? So this is what we call the intricacies. Intricacies means a mind which is not caught in revenge, not caught in this thing that why is he treating me like this, not writing off people, they are like this, they'll never reform. So this is the mind. This is a mind of a wise person which is fresh.
So Krishna is a metaphor for consciousness.
No, Krishna is a metaphor for
Free will.
Ishvara. Ishvara and right interpretation of dharma. And Ishvara also actually has knowledge of the final reality and how that final reality enables him to flow through life and difficult situations without any loads and every time do what needs to be done. He represents a lot.
So, Krishna is the epitome of the person who is free.
Absolutely.
Liberated.
So that means, obviously, right? So that means Krishna is the one who is teaching Arjuna all of this. And he, as the teacher, understands this really well. And with this understanding, how does he move in the world?
So that is the avatar which shows you what a liberated person, how one is supposed to.
Exactly, absolutely. How he's supposed to navigate.
How?
Because
A normal
otherwise,
person-
a normal person who can be highly exalted, Yudhishthira, highly exalted, very noble. When complex situation comes, he makes a mess. He goes on losing the entire kingdom and his 5 brothers and his wife. Loss of perspective, even though he is extremely noble. Bhishma. Bhishma is also the same, right? Highly exalted. At the same time, number of situations makes wrong decision and decides not to stand up for Draupadi and just sit there. Sees all this, Duryodhana is consistently unfair, but because his vow of protecting the king of Hastinapura just keeps quiet.
All these characters
So,
actually
all these
are there to
characters
show you
that
the
you
difference
can
between a
be exalted.
liberated person and
Absolutely.
a jnani or a
Arjuna is a person who is also extremely exalted, but at the time of war, overwhelmed by sorrow and not knowing what to do with this. So that means what it shows is that you can be highly evolved at the same time. If you don't have this vision, you cannot navigate through life intelligently. So Lord Krishna represents this vision, and as a result of this vision, what do you do? How do you live your life? He doesn't withdraw from anything. He's in and through everything. But every situation, the way he deals with, he represents true dharma and true understanding. What unfortunately we do is we think we are very smart and our dharma is superior. So when he shows us how to navigate in difficult situations, we said he did only gadbad to get ahead. No, that's a wrong way of looking at Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna represents how in complex situations you interpret things clearly. So he shows what a wise person is and breaks all our myths about this wise person. Okay, so that means to answer Tushar's question, there is not one thing that the wise person does. You can't answer the question by saying he is always loving, he is always understanding. What, as situations arise, he assesses them totally accurately and is able to do what needs to be done.
Once you have got it, it doesn't mean that you have to impart that knowledge as a teacher. You can do it by living.
Yeah.
And normal living and
Yeah. So
and
even
when, of course he taught the Mahabharata when it was required.
he taught Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna asked this question. He didn't otherwise.
He didn't volunteer.
He didn't volunteer.
He
So
didn't
somebody
volunteer.
has to ask that question. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll do the prayer and